All right, welcome everyone. This is the Northampton Urban Forestry Commission meeting, December 18th, 2024. This is the time for public comment. If we have, hi, Jackie, I see you there. You welcome. How are you? You got to unmute yourself. Yeah.
I am so excited about the Miyawaki forest. I sent y'all a public comment by email already. I wanted to add to that
Sure.
public excitement seems to be public engagement, community awareness, and is exploding. We have, it's already Grow Food Northampton and Climate Action Now, and some other independent peoples, and we have connections, have reached out to the Smith Folk Forestry Department to include them. We have a history with the environmental club at the high school, which David knows about. And Smith College students, well, you saw their presentation, Rich.
Yes. Yep.
So there's a lot of youth energy in support of this, and I think it could bring the whole community together in a really positive way. And it's not controversial. There's really nothing, there's nothing about it that anybody could pick at it for. And I wanted to invite each and every one of you individually or as a group to get involved if you'd like. I think there's going to be a meeting in January of people who are contributing, and that's growing by leaps and bounds. And I think Kent might have something to tell us about the species selection has already begun. Would y'all be interested in participating? Maybe share some of your trees. I think it's just an idea. Thank you. I hope this will be on the next agenda.
Thank you. Kent, do you have any comment?
Sure, I'll just add a little to that, or add my own invitation that if anybody wants to participate, we'd love to have you. I am working on plant selection, actually meeting tomorrow morning on site to talk about that. I do understand from Rich that probably the UFC can't officially be involved with this because it's on private property, and I understand that, but so you're all very welcome to participate as individuals. And I know the STO is on the agenda tonight, so I just want to repeat my support for a stronger STO. I know you all are very aware of how I feel about that, so I won't say much except to say, yes, I still feel that way. And that's it for me.
Jackie.
Yeah, I wanted to come back and say that I feel the same way about the STO. And oh Lord, there was something else. I forgot it already. If I think of it, I'll email it. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Counselor Jarrett, I see you unmuted yourself, but down. Okay. Any public comment?
No, just here to listen to the conversation about the STO. Happy to be here.
Thank you. It's nice to have you. Thank you. Jackie, your hand is still raised. Do you have one other comment before we move on?
Oh my God, thank you so much. But if this is a not-for-profit project, and I think there should be some way that the UFC could participate, because I think it would be great PR for the UFC. And you could take a message, it's a way to take a message to the whole community that preserving biodiversity is equally as important as ending fossil fuels. My 2 cents. Thank you. I'm done. Bye.
Well, don't say bye, because you can stay for the meeting. Thank you, as always, for your comments. They're greatly appreciated. All right. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes of 11/6? Okay, could we entertain a motion to accept them? We have okay,
I have one comment or
Okay.
clarification would be, hold on, let me find it. Under the section that is fall planting and setback initiative,
yeah,
there's a statement, we took delivery, the second bullet, we took delivery of 25 fall and burlap trees to round out the project at Sovereign Way. It sounds like all those, that wording kind of sounds like we put 25 trees at
Okay.
Sovereign Way. So I would just change that statement to be, we took, let me write this down. We took delivery of 25 fall and burlap trees. And some of those, and with some of those, we completed the project on Sovereign Way. That's my amendment.
okay. Julie, you've written that down. That would be helpful. If you could email that.
Yep.
Eventually when we we flush out the minutes.
Yep. Completed.
Does anyone else have any comments? No, okay, so could I get a motion to accept the minutes as amended? Molly makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, so,
That was Rich Parrish.
yeah,
Okay.
okay. Any discussion on the amended minutes? Okay, there being none, I'll take a roll call. Jen Werner,
Yes.
Rich Parrish,
Yes.
Molly Hale,
Yes.
David Lukens,
Yes.
and Rich Parcelletti is yes. So the amended minutes pass. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. I have a few things under my tree warden / chair report. So let's talk about the public shade tree hearing that was that we had on December 5th at 170 Rocky Hill Road. So I think I mentioned to you in our previous meetings that we were going to be scheduling a public shade tree hearing for removal of, I think we was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so 8 trees at 170 Rocky Hill Road, and the removal of the trees is required for infrastructure improvements to construct a new shared use path. So this shared use path would connect the Rocky Hill Greenway with the bike trail that heads to East Hampton. So this is that stage where it crosses Ice Pond Drive, goes across Ice Pond Drive. There is presently there is a crosswalk there, and then the sidewalk runs down the right-hand side of 66, or the southerly side of Route 66, going towards the Hampshire County Jail, and then it would be taking a right into property that is owned by Berkshire Gas, and then drop down into the bikeway from basically almost somewhat in a straight line. So this is the first leg of this. This is a Mass DOT project. So we had a public shade tree hearing. Carolyn attended. There was one resident, John Paradis, I think is his last name, from Ice Pond Drive, who was there just to gather information. There was no objection. And actually Carolyn had a previously scheduled like neighborhood type meeting with some of the residents there to sort of explain to them what the project was going to entail, and that was happening at a different time. And so without any objection, the trees were removed, or their trees has slated to be removed. The permission is hereby given to remove them. And Carolyn has agreed to pay mitigation for tree planting, to replace these trees in the public right of way in other places.
Mhm.
So using some of their they're using some of their tree mitigation fund, that they have to pay for replacement trees, in the public right of way. So I'm haven't had a chance to sit down with her to sort of hammer that out, but we would just be basically purchasing tree stock, and planning and sustainability would be paying for it. And then we would replace the plant material in places, hopefully in that ward or in that area where applicable, and in other places. There's not really a lot of places to plant trees once they build this shared use path. And the problem is that the shared use path is going to require a like a gabion style wall, because the shared use, the road, the path goes downhill, and there's a very steep embankment, and all these trees are on the embankment in order to create the shared use path without actually pushing, you know, narrowing the the let's see, the eastbound travel lane. They actually had to they had to move the embankment back. So all of these trees would have been compromised. Was absolutely no way to save them, because all of their root systems would be, you know, their critical root zones would be completely exposed. So, and that project actually is out to bid right now. I went out to bid, I believe, on the 14th. So I think the targeted date is for start of construction is in the spring. So anyone have any questions? Okay. That's one item of business. The other item, a couple other items of business is the Mass Tree Wardens and Foresters annual conference is coming up in January. It's on January 7th and 8th. Let me just check those dates. I will send you a link to the agenda after this meeting. I encourage any one of you that are interested in attending to reach out to me, and we can make similar arrangements as we did last year, if you're interested. We've got some great speakers, so I'm looking forward to it. We already have over 300 registered attendees and vendors there, so we'll hopefully have a packed house again. A lot of good educational materials will be available. I wanted just to briefly update you on our next item of business before we move into that, is that Carolyn had intended to be here for this meeting, but she is not available, unfortunately. Unexpectedly, she could not, she's been out of work for a bit. So, I did talk to her, and my hope is to have her come at our meeting in January so we can have a Q&A with her about the questions that we initially had on the last time we talked about the SDO. So unfortunately, she sends her apologies. So the other thing I wanted to briefly talk about was the Milwaukee Forest concept that Jackie was talking about, and then Kent mentioned. I participated with several Three Smith College students who were doing their capstone project to identify locations within the city. There were 3 locations identified where potentially there's, you know, a level of mowing that goes on there, but the land use is not, it's basically utility turf. There's no sports played on it. They were Ellerbrook Field, on the Route 66 side of Ellerbrook Field, there is 2 slopes there. We've planted shagbark hickories there. Those were 2 locations that have no sports. And then the other one was the roundabout and the industrial park, which is another location central to the city. I mean, central to that area where we've planted trees in the past, but there's a lot of area in the middle, although there's a lot of utilities that run in there, but potentially that could be identified as a location. And then I can't think of the last one, to be truthful with you, and I will think of it eventually. But the presentation that they had was great. They have a PowerPoint that I'm going to actually, once I get it, I will share with you so you can look at it. You can watch the NESC, and I can send you the link to the NESC video. You can watch their presentation about that as well. I thought it was very, you know, again, it's trying to rethink the areas that are turf that are not utilized for anything but just mowing because we've either always mowed them or it has no real functionality. And just trying to rethink those areas, either making them into a Milwaukee forest or making them into a pollinator planting, which Jackie alluded to, that the high school environmental club is also interested in creating some pollinator habitat at the high school itself. So I met with him and Angie Gregory, who is the sustainability director at Mount Holyoke College. She also is a member of NESC, and we met with them back in November to sort of strategize as to how best to possibly approach the steep hill that's at the high school, which is right behind the high school, very similar to the steep hill next to City Hall, to try to turn that into some sort of pollinator planting area. So, and then Smith Vocational actually was doing a pilot pollinator planting area up by next to the VA. Some of you may have seen the land that was flipped over there back in the spring, and the NESC appropriated $5,000 for pollinator seeds, amazing mixture of native wildflowers, perennial wildflowers to be planted there. And they were the goal was to have that wrapped up and planted and seeded after the first hard frost, first killing frost, really. So we've already had that. So I will follow up with Tim Smith. But Tim Smith was spearheading that. He's also a member of the NESC, Energy and Sustainability Commission. So
What is NESC stand for?
sorry, Northampton Energy and Sustainability Commission.
Where is that pollinator garden at the VA?
If you're on Florence Street,
Mm-hmm.
with your back to Leeds, and you're looking at the VA property, it is all the way to the left-hand side.
Oh,
It's right, it's the field right before the demonstration forest that's the Smith Folk Forestry Department utilizes for their.
oh, that
silviculture.
huge field that they just tilled?
Yeah, yep,
That whole thing is going to be pollinator?
yes,
Wow, it's a
Yes,
big field.
yes, yep.
Cool.
So that was identified like a year and a half ago, and we have a pollinator subcommittee that was working on that, and that sort of pollinator subcommittee morphed into a few different people because changes on NESC, but that project is still moving. So we're working on the project with the environmental club, and trying to help them steward that project along. And then the Smith College students with the capstone project, I really would like to. I saw the PowerPoint during the meeting, but I don't have a copy of it. But I think you would find it very interesting and very well done. So, go ahead, Kent.
I just wanted to say the third site is the solar array off of Glendale Road.
Yep, thank you.
I think it's a former landfill, I'm not sure, down by the dump.
Yep, thank you. So,
I got a quick question.
sure.
I'm just curious. Do they hydro seed the meadow mixes?
They can. I've seen it done multiple ways. They hydro seed it, they drop seed it, and they broadcast it. And some operations, if they're capable, they sow it.
What do you mean by sowing?
Like an overseeder, where you actually, the
Like
land
drills in the ground.
yeah, the land is sort of prepped, and it's a lot more time consuming to do it that way because the land almost has to be like much smoother and sort of rock free. So, but I think they're going to be broadcasting it and then sort of like meekering it in. So it's, there's good soil contact and compaction. So
I know that's probably the most cost effective. In my experience in marginal settings, I've just seen huge success with hydroseeding. Like I've often thought, I mean, this is off the off the topic, but I've often thought like the curbs that were redone on North Maple Street, and
Mhm.
there was soil put in there and grass seed. It looked beautiful, but I just think that would have filled in a hot second if they would have been hydroseeded, you know. And I don't know if, yeah, that's just a whole separate thing. I think we
Yep.
should be doing more hydroseeding to get real cover. So.
Yep, yep, I agree, because you can use, you know, they have paper mulch, they have straw paper mulch, with tackifiers, right? So you can do a lot of different, really, they have netting products that already have all the seed in it, for slopes with, the straw already embedded in there that you just roll these mats out, and then the straw basically, you know, creates that, keeps the soil warm, especially this time of year, and allows the
Mhm.
seeds to germinate, you know, so there's a lot of different techniques. And hydroseeding actually, you know, also nice thing about hydroseeding too is that the water pressure sort of gets that seed set right into the soil, and then it covers it with whatever paper product or fiber product you're using, and then that just creates that great growth um, potential medium, right? So a little layer between the soil and the paper mulch, right? A lot of cool things happen in there, and the seeds just really do really well. I mean, that's how we did Ellabrook Field. We had rented a hydro seeder, and we did it in house, and we did the whole place, and it was pretty amazing. So
Yeah, the germination percentage is just really fast and really hot
yep,
and really high.
yep.
It's yeah, I've been really sold on it over the years. I know it costs a little bit more, but the water's right there and then it's retained.
Yep.
Yeah.
So more to come. Once I have the PowerPoint, I'll send it to you, but you're more than I'll send you the Nesc link to the meeting. And I'll send you the information about the conference.
There was a link in one of the emails you sent out this week that showed the video of that discussion.
Okay. Yeah, actually, that was Jackie. I think Jackie, I forwarded that from Jackie. So,
Yeah,
okay,
okay. Yeah.
perfect. Okay. All right. So that's the other thing too is that potentially the meeting, the second meeting in January, I will not be available. So I will send you an only email about that. So our next meeting would be, let me just double check my calendar. I believe would be, our next meeting would be Wednesday, January 1st, which is
Hmm.
New Year's Day. Hold on a
That's,
second.
I could do that, except you have a holiday.
Yes, and I'm not, Bonnie would not be available either, but let me just check, let me just check that email. Hold on a second. Too many emails. Let's see. Come on, Rebecca Cornell. 11/16. Okay, so now that I'm looking at the calendar, actually, that's incorrect. So the 16th is the following day. Sorry, the 15th would be our second meeting of the month, right? That's the second Wednesday of the month. So that I will be there for. So we can just plan on meeting on the 15th if everyone's okay with that. 15th of January.
Wait, you said you won't or you will be there
I
on the
will.
15th?
I will.
Will.
I
Oh.
will. It's sorry. It's Thursday, the 16th.
Oh,
That I will not be available. I have a
okay.
night meeting that I need to attend. So the 15th, barring any unforeseen weather events, or, I suppose
Yeah.
I could run the meeting out of a snowplow truck, but it'd be kind of bumpy, but,
Yeah.
but yes, so the 15th, okay? All right. So, all right. Any questions?
So on your chair report, you don't
Hmm.
have anything more from Carolyn, right?
No, I have no other information from Carolyn, unfortunately. Yeah, she apologized for not being able to be here.
All right.
Um,
So she'll be here on the 15th then. We hope.
on the 15th. Yes, that is the plan.
Okay,
So I left the agenda sort of as is, just in case, we can move on to the next agenda item if you want to discuss the benefit calculations that I sent you, or if you want to table that, it's entirely up to all of you. I don't mind
Hmm.
either way.
I haven't looked at those yet, but I could look at them now. People want
Okay.
to.
What's
Rick,
the title of the next agenda item? Please,
The
I
next
have-
agenda item is draft STO discussion with UFC commissioners.
Great, okay, thanks.
Yep.
just Rich, a question, the value information you sent is very clear. I know how that was calculated. But I think another important figure to have in that discussion would be, what is the cost or the range of costs that a developer would be required to pay, in tree costs, labor, whatever, to mitigate his removal of a certain size tree. Or are you suggesting that document you sent would be the value that a developer would need to pay if he removed that kind of tree?
No, that document is not, does not, that's not the intent of that. The intent of that,
Yeah,
those
all right.
multiples were to sort of help you understand, the benefits of trees that actually are really truly that you can actually go look at, because I gave you the addresses. They're all in our inventory.
Yeah,
Where,
okay.
where you can actually go look at the trees and sort of like think about the size, look at the size of the tree, and then look at the benefit calculations and realize, that, this 15-inch tree has X benefit, and this 17-inch tree has this benefit, right? Now,
Okay,
just to show you, just to kind of create in your mind like a range of what the benefits are. So if those benefits were lost, these are the overall benefits that
right.
we would be, that would no longer be present in the in the urban environment, with also understanding too that, the replacement of trees presently under the STO, those trees do not, they have benefits just like these trees that I did the benefit calculations when they reach that particular diameter of breast height. But they really don't become carbon neutral until they're about 20 and almost 30 years old.
All right.
So,
But again, I think, Carolyn and her commission, of course, is concerned of not making any, onerous requirements to a developer. And so just, indicating what the cost to a developer would be if they had to mitigate removal of a 12-inch tree, by planting, whatever new trees or contributing whatever money to the city for planting, what might that cost to the developer be?
okay.
I think that would be a very valuable piece of information.
Okay. So, let me just reiterate, so I understand what you're asking, is that you're asking separate from what so we know what the mitigation cost is, right? Based on the present significant tree ordinance. If someone removes a tree that is 20 inches in diameter, breast height, there is half of that diameter is replaced. So 10 inches is calculated for the replacement. And then there is $100 per caliper inch. So the replacement cost, the dollar amount to replace the benefits that are lost for that tree are $1,000.
Okay, all right.
So that is presently how it's done. What I
All right.
think what you're asking me is, you're asking me if the developer was required to plant trees in the place of what was lost, how much that is going to cost them.
Well, if they're just if they can satisfy it just by making a payment to the city, such as that $1,000, which is probably what most of them would do anyway, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, well, that is the figure I'm thinking of. And if that can be applied to the various sizes, because we're wanting to bring the diameter limit down.
Correct.
So what might the relevant cost to those smaller diameters trees be to the developer? Just as you mentioned with the $1,000 cost to the whatever the 20-inch tree.
So if it was a 15-inch tree under the new ordinance, it would be 15 inches and they would actually have to replace all 15 inches. So they could do that two ways. They could do that by replacing in-kind tree caliper so multiple trees so they equal the 15-inch, or they could make the one-time payment to the tree mitigation fund for $1,500.
Okay, all right.
So the draft ordinance recommends, I mean, the way it's written presently recommends a 1-for-1 replacement. But it lowers, the one cost I think that would be interesting to understand, and this is project specific because we don't know this, is actually we would know this when a project is put together, because when a project is submitted, the applicant usually has a site plan that shows all the significant trees and which trees are to be retained and which are to be removed. And then they usually have a calculation in a table on that particular landscape plan.
Okay.
What we're not necessarily going to know is if the STO is adopted in its current draft, that cost is going to be different. Obviously, because we are reducing the diameter breast height requirement, and we're also making it a 1-for-1 replacement versus now it's just half the diameter.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I think the whole goal is, right? I mean, one of the goals is to get developers to think a little differently about development. In essence, trying to develop with the trees that are on site. And also, if they do have to remove these trees at lower diameters they have benefits, they have value that are not necessarily recognized under the existing ordinance just because of the difference. And also to, if they have to remove trees that are like in the central business or URB, right, which is the central business district, at 17 inches, that they replace in kind with either 17-inch trees, in caliper somewhere in the footprint, or they make a $1,700 payment to the
Okay.
to the mitigation fund.
All right. Very good. That clarifies it for me. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Rich, this might be a good time to mention a zoning proposal that was being considered last week, I believe, from the planning department that would remove site plan review for 2-family units.
Yep.
And I commented on that just in my capacity as a public citizen, encouraging, but that would remove a whole bunch of trees from the STO effectively.
Yes, and that is because state legislation sort of created and I can't think of the actual term. I don't have it with me. But the state legislation that was just passed actually sort of state zoning superseded what we had on the books here in Northampton. So I think that became more in line with what the state zoning code is. And I'm again, I can find that information from Carolyn and send it to you. But yeah, I mean, like the STO really affects a subset of projects. It does not affect all it does not affect all projects, as we know. This has been the conversation we've had in the past about having a significant tree ordinance just for site plan review, special permit, zoning relief versus having a citywide type of ordinance like Cambridge and other communities. Now Brookline has a new one, so. Yes, Jen.
Just want to, just be on the record to say that, I thought a lot about this and I'm not, I'm not the most kind of numerically savvy person, on the various levels to think about it, but I do feel like it's important to think about that because it is a subset of projects that, and it's like really the only line in the sand we have, that I'm pretty in favor of trying to push to get the numbers smaller. And part of the reason is I understand it's probably not going to have this enormous effect on the city, but if in the future there is other pushes to have some other ordinance or outside of just the special permit, et cetera, that there's precedent set then. The precedent, if we just go with what is there, then the precedent is like, all right, those big trees, what the heck, And I understand the developer, I understand, I'm not against infill. I understand, there's a balance here, but I also feel like currently our town is pretty, desirable. And I think that the developers are going to just pay the money. And I don't think it's going to make those projects, the solar panels and the, zero energy HVAC system, that's what's going to push all the prices, while the price of, the goods to build, have skyrocketed in the last number of years. I really don't think that the tree costs are going to make or break those projects. I just don't. And I could be wrong. But I'm pretty willing to try to not go crazy, but I'm pretty willing to try to push those numbers a little bit. So I just wanted to say that. Oh, and sorry. One other thing is that those trees that are larger, let's say it's a 17-inch tree, if it has a reasonable growing environment, it is going to continue to sequester carbon and, for a much longer, it would take a very long time for those new trees, if they're replaced, wherever we put them, whether it's to catch up to that tree and continue that tree's job, or even the job of pollution, particulates, water, stormwater sequestration, oxygen, et cetera, et cetera. It isn't like it's great to do 1-to-1, but it's not really 1-to-1 is my point. So, I don't want to send this over the edge that we're butting heads in a major way, but I really do think there's precedent here. And if there's new ordinances looked at in the future or whatever, this is going to be looked back on to say, well, we did it, this was okay here. So I'll stop on my soapbox now.
Thank you. You get to write all that down now because you're taking the minutes.
Yeah. Well said, though. Well said.
Yeah,
It's on, it's
Yeah,
recorded.
here.
right. Yeah, anyone else have any comments?
I agree. I agree with Jen.
Yeah, I too agree with Jen.
Yeah, I don't disagree either. And as I have thought in the past is that I just wish that people that are applicants that are providing, sending in site plans, for review for projects would just sort of look at trees in a different way. That, you know, people, I think even myself when I was younger, and even, you know, I think we sometimes look at trees as just being static things, right? They're just
Mhm.
there, right? They're
Mm.
not. They're dynamic, and they provide a lot of wonderful benefits. And I think that you know, technology in the world is so advanced, is if not, I mean, it's more advanced than it was when the tree first showed up on the planet, right? So, and technology and building codes, building construction, you know, electrification, geothermal heat pumps, air source heat pumps, electric cars. I mean, who would have thought I mean, I would have never thought about electric car when I was, you know, 10 years old. I would, you know, I mean, I just wouldn't have thought of it, but it was the future. Like if you watch the Jetsons, right? So my point is that, you know, trees have been here from the beginning, and they have provided us with a tremendous amount of services and benefits. And I think that we just like there's a whole educational component around this that can't be like written in some ordinance, can't be, you know, can't be on some application that you have, you know, it just, you have to recognize the fact that the more things that we build in the effort to create new housing, which is extremely important, the technology that's available to create that net zero building, based on the infrastructure of the building, the thickness of the walls, the thickness of the windows, that is all that is advanced over time, and it seems to have accelerated very quickly in a short period of time, right? In our lifetime. But the thought process around how trees interact with these projects and the fact that they are not static, but they're dynamic, that part still seems to be sort of stuck
Mm.
somewhere, you know, and it's just like every time I try to have a conversation with someone, like if I have one conversation with one person about this, I'm like, you know, I never thought about it that way. And I'm like, yeah, well, you know, it's kind of important that you need to design these projects in such a way that there hopefully are some trees left on site that provide some really heavy benefits, while the other younger trees that you're going to plant to replace them actually have time to catch up. But I think because of technology and its advancement, you know, carbon neutrality and actually reducing our reliance on fossil fuels, et cetera, um, can happen very quickly if we adopt different modes of transportation, different building codes, et cetera. And sometimes trees sort of get lost. You know, I'm not saying it's intentional. I just think they get lost. I think people just don't think of them as like the trees are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think I've said this before, right? Street signs only work if you read them. You know, and that's just a very simplistic way to look at it. But you know, trying to get people to think about designing with nature, with what they have, I think is really an important way to sort of is something that, like, you can make a statement in the ordinance that says that, but that doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to happen, if you know what I'm saying. So, education, lots of education
Mm.
and importance. And also to realize that trees are not easily replaced. I think they're just, you know, they're cut, they can be removed, and yeah, we're going to plant, you know, X, Y, and Z trees of this species, this size, and, you know, the benefits are not, it's going to require more carbon in our lifetime to get those trees to grow to be carbon neutral. I'll be 80 years old if they were planted today. So
Yeah.
just the other part of this that the sort of like the balance that Jen was talking about, like trying to balance it and um, trying to work with the Office of Planning Sustainability and the Planning Board, and also trying to understand that they need to work with developers to create this a smart development, but also don't leave the trees behind. Think about them as part of the infrastructure that actually provides us with the benefits, along with the geothermal heat pumps, along with the
Right.
you know,
Right.
stretch code, et cetera. And how we make all that work is still, it's still somewhere. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I think just talking about it is helpful.
I think a lot of people see trees as just furniture. You know, it's just a thing, like you said, it's a thing that's there and you can take it down and put a new one in. I'm gonna get a new couch. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna get a new tree. We'll take this one down, but we'll just get another one without really just thinking about, you know, that they are dynamic and growing.
Yeah,
Well, or
I think-
just even the inputs. You know, I can't tell you how many big projects I've seen. All this money comes in, it's really, everybody wins awards, and then they don't get watered. And then 50% or more are no longer living. You know, nobody remembers that.
Right.
You know, the amount of plant material that got put into a project, you know, so that's another cost too. Usually, you know, a larger tree usually, you know, unless it usually has adapted itself to the ups and downs of life, of water and stuff like that. Where a young tree just doesn't have the ability to do that. You can lose trees after you planted them 5 years ago if we have a bad drought, you know. They're just not as resilient yet, you know. So that's a whole nother cost, like, you know, we don't think of that, you know.
Yep.
I just
Yeah.
wanted to briefly credit Kent with pulling down that temperature data from Landsat that showed the notable heat islands, because I think it really kind of speaks in value of preserving the mid-sized trees, those in the 6 to 17-inch dBH range, because after all this, that's our future urban forest. Not only that, but you know, because they release water vapor, they really contribute to cooling down those hot heat islands. So I mean, that's something that maybe Carolyn can address as part of the trade-off. Kent's data and how to think about it in terms of the dBH threshold.
Any other comments before we move on? So we're going to table we'll move this discussion to the January meeting so Carolyn can join us and we can ask her the questions that we have about the proposed draft and the changes to the diameter of breast height. Okay. Arden, thank you very much for that, for your commentary. It's greatly appreciated. Our next agenda item is unfortunately, you all saw the email that I forwarded to you that Jordan Freed resigned, unfortunately. Jordan's service, while short, was very was appreciated, and Jordan's input was greatly was great, and he'll be missed. So we have a vacancy, and you know, if you have thoughts on someone that you think would be willing to serve on the commission, who's a resident, that would actually, you know, that would be able to actually have the time, because we are a pretty busy commission. That's a time consideration, obviously, and also someone who you know, works in the green industry or has affiliated with the green industry, or maybe someone who is not affiliated with the green industry, as we, you know, I'm all ears. So if you have any thoughts, please share. And I will contact, I did contact the city clerk about the resignation, so I need to now contact the mayor's office to just sort of double check with them to see if they have any marketing materials. I don't think they do, but again, just if you can put your feelers out or just put your thinking caps on, that would be great. Okay. Next agenda item is spring planting setback initiative. So I just sort of left this as a placeholder. Yes, Molly, sorry.
Yeah, I did, right before, in half an hour before this meeting, I threw together a draft letter to go to the landowners, and I emailed it to you, but I could also screen share it if you want to look over it.
Sure.
It's really a draft, so, you know.
Let me just make you a co-host.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second. Okay, I think you're a co-host now, so you can do a screen share.
Okay.
Thank you.
Um, Okay, can you see that?
Yes. Yep.
tell me when you want me to move it.
Okay. Just one quick comment, in the, let's see, here's how the program works. I was just wondering where it says working with the Urban Forestry Commission, should it say working with Urban Forestry Commission and Tree Northampton?
Um,
Or is Tree Northampton mentioned somewhere else in here?
no, I haven't mentioned, I said volunteers would plant it.
Okay, all right.
I could say skilled volunteers from Tree Northampton. Or I don't know where I could mention it anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'm just, we don't have to do anything to it. I'm just,
We don't have to do all the editing like right now, but I'm
yeah,
just throwing
okay,
it out there as
all
a,
right, okay,
you know, general first crack.
okay.
I
And I
would,
added the A to your email, Rich. I left out the A. Oh, yeah, in this version it's in there. Yeah.
Okay,
in addition, in that lower paragraph, shade from setback trees, lower cooling bills. I guess that's okay. I just think maybe at the end of the next sentence, I just think there should be another mention of like lowering temperatures
Mm,
in the inner city core, or because most
yeah.
people don't know what urban heat island is, in my experience. So, you know, somewhere maybe in the second sentence,
I could say
contribute-
it benefits you with lower cooling bills and keeps our streets and sidewalks cooler, keeps the whole city cooler.
I would say something about will assist in decreasing the temperatures of the city core. You know, that
Mhm.
like, oh, you're giving to your community. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like,
mhm.
it's going to be this whole connected group of people doing it, or you know what I mean?
Right, right,
Because that's really why we're starting here, right?
right, right.
This is good. This is a good letter.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
I agree. I think on the bot, just for, on the, where it says, we hope you would like to take advantage of this program. If you would like to do so, please contact Northampton's tree warden. So I wonder if, we should actually put the contact in, like the contact information, the information we have, the Google sheet, the Google infill right there, instead of actually contacting me directly in an email.
Oh,
Cause that way there, that goes directly to, we don't have to do it now. It's just, I'll send you my comments in the email, but I think,
Mhm.
what I'm about to say, so you have them in writing. We should actually just make it consistent. Because that, when someone actually wants a setback tree, that's how they end up actually getting, on the list. They're automatically placed on
Yeah.
the list, and then we know, myself, I think Sue, Jen, Jen and, Christina, they get emails. So they know that there's someone who's interested.
So should I say, I could just say, um, if you'd like more information, scan this QR code.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
basically it. And
Yep.
then, yeah, they can either ask questions or they can get like hooked right into the process.
Yep. Yeah, actually, the QR code, there's two QR code. I think one would get them right to the brochure, would get them to. I have to go look at I don't have a brochure in front of me. I believe one gets them to the brochure and then one gets them to the Google link.
Ah,
I'll have to double check.
okay. Which one?
I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to put a QR code in a letter anyway, so,
Okay, well, I mean, again, this is like the first crack. This looks really great.
I can, if you'd like, I can put it on a Google Doc if people want to do edits to it. Little, fine details or whatever. And the question about watering, I wasn't sure exactly what to say about what our expectations were.
Yeah, I mean, if those kind of things are all on that trifold. So I don't, so we
Yeah,
might, go
I
ahead,
was
Molly,
looking at
sorry.
the trifold as I was writing it. I don't think it specifically says about watering. It says that that we'll put a tree bag on which will be filled with water over the summer. So that makes it sound like we're going to do the watering. Is that true?
Yeah, I think you have an older one.
Okay, that could
So
be.
I think that's updated. And again, I could,
Okay, that's good to know.
yeah, it's updated. So maybe what we should do is we should, if you could send this to me,
Mm-hmm.
so you sent this to all of us already, this
Just
letter?
before the meeting. Yeah, just before the meeting.
Okay, all right. So then, maybe I might make a suggestion that we just sort of, you could make a Google Doc for us, so we could
Yeah,
actually
sure.
just sort of put our comments in there, and then we could just bring this back to the next meeting with those
Yeah.
comments, and then we can just work on it from there,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if that's okay with you and everyone else.
Yep. That's
Je-
easy to do.
Jen, you're muted,
Sorry.
sorry.
I think
That's
it's
okay.
important, like if we're gonna edit it, don't we have to be in suggesting mode?
You have to be in edit mode. Yeah, I have to give you permission to edit it.
Yeah, but there's suggestions and then there's edits, and I think you want to be in I mean, you have to let us be editors, but there's up in the right corner, it says suggestions.
Oh,
So
okay.
then
All right.
everybody's would be recorded there. Do you
All
know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't
instead of
want the
just-
thing to get totally changed every time somebody goes
I
in.
know. Okay,
'Cause
that's good. I didn't know there was
Yeah.
that setting.
Yeah, it's up in the right corner. It's like a little pencil.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I see the email. Thank you. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you for putting this together.
Sure.
Yeah, this is awesome.
All right. I'll
And this would be
unshare.
included with the brochure, right?
Yeah, we could do it. Yes, we could put the letter in the mail with the address, and then we could put the brochure in the envelope as well. If we actually have the ability to figure out people's email addresses, you can email that to them as well. And then they'll have the QR code and everything right there, and then without the brochure, then they could actually just go use the QR code.
A lot of these people are going to be those LLCs that own
Right.
buildings.
Yeah.
We should think about if there's any special way we'll want to set up those letters, to try to, well, first of all, we need to find out who the person actually is and is there a way to tweak it to make it,
To whom it
I don't
may,
know,
con- to
make
whom
it more
may-
appealing to those kind of people? Because they don't even live there.
Right.
They don't really care about lowering the heating bills because they don't live there probably. But maybe there's another way of appealing to that group of people. I'm not sure.
You could start off the letter by saying, "Are you arbor curious?" I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, you could say to whom it may concern, but that's like,
It's so,
it's so
Nah.
generic and so like sanitized.
I know, and it's also
Not
like,
very inviting.
no, it's like, why would I read this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Molly,
Yeah.
I have a question. Thank you for drafting that. It's always hard to get a first draft going. Is this how does this work with the door hangers? I'm not. I mean, is this instead of the door hangers, or is this in addition to the door hangers?
Good question. I don't know.
Can I just, maybe I might be able to answer. I think this was to help us with the rental properties that we couldn't discern
Mm,
that were not owner occupied. So if we're leaving door hangers on doors, then we're leaving them for renters or
yeah.
folks that don't own the property potentially. So we weren't sure we were targeting the right audience. So this was like a generic letter that we were going to send to these LLCs or these there's a lot of rental companies that actually own or manage these properties. That's where the mail goes to. That's where the utility bills
Yeah.
go, et cetera. So
Right.
that, I think that's
Right.
where they were I mean, we can still leave door hangers, but we really have to make contact with the actual property owner.
Yeah, so I think the door hangers should go on the places that are owned by people that live in that building or that live in who live in that building. Yeah, and then letters go to people who live somewhere else.
I mean, a good example of working with I think a LLC would be like Magna House. So, Magna House is a multitude of condos
Mm,
that is managed by a board of directors.
mm,
So we did a setback planting there. Um, working with, I think it's a setback planting. Yeah, setback planting there because I went and had a sign. Yes, and so, but we made contact with. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that was a holdover from when Rob was sort of going door to door, but there's an example of where that's owner occupied. But it was similar. We contacted them. They had to sign a setback agreement. The president of the board had to sign the agreement. Once that was signed, it was
Mm.
filed at the registry of deeds, and then off we go. We planted the trees this past.
Oh,
So
I'm curious, like, what was the appeal for an LLC to do this? What appealed to them about it?
well, I mean, I think so. What's interesting is because it's sort of it's owner managed LLC because there's a board of directors. I mean, they're also responsible for like the grounds maintenance.
Mm,
And I think after talking with the individual board member, she was really wanting to get more trees planted in front of the building because that's
oh,
right as you drive up Summer Street and it turns into Crescent Street.
mm-hmm.
That's that sort of brick glass building straight ahead, and there's no trees in the front of it any longer.
Oh,
Trees are to the right and to the left, but on the very edges. So they have a vested interest in what happens with the landscape.
maybe that's a line that we could add to the letter would be something like trees have the potential to increase your property value. Or something like that. Maybe that would
I
appeal
mean,
to their pocketbook.
yeah, I mean, we could,
True.
yeah, it's true.
That's a good statement.
I'm not going to say that they will.
Right.
I'll say they have the potential to.
They
Yeah.
have the potential to,
Yeah.
yep.
Or can, yeah.
Yep.
Jackie likes that.
A thumbs up from Jackie.
Mhm.
So I mean, but that again, that was owner occupied.
Yeah.
So, it's a little, and they had a vested interest. So it might be a little different if you're working with a rental agency that manages a piece of property for a owner or a owner's group. They may not see necessarily the immediate value.
I think if you put it in terms of have the potential to increase property value and create a more desirable living space for your tenants.
I mean, I think all those things, I think that is another great way to describe that.
If I'm just curious how this works. If there's a a rental company that or a property management company that manages the properties, is there a way to bypass them and get it to the owners? Or at least one owner?
So that's a really good question. I think it depends upon what the management agreement is. Like
Okay,
what the management does. I mean, do they collect all the rents? Do they pay all the utility bills? Do they pay the taxes? Do they, what is their role?
mm,
Uh, because really, Ken has a,
Ken has an idea.
Ken has a
Well,
comment.
Yeah, the addresses we have are the owner addresses because they're from the the owner of record. The list I sent you to everyone, I think. Those are not property management
Okay.
addresses. Those are
That's good.
owner addresses.
because I
Okay.
think if it gets to a property management company, there's a very low chance, in my opinion, that that's gonna, anybody's, that's just gonna, I don't wanna, it's just one more thing for them to deal with that they're not invested in, they're
Mhm.
just making the transactions function or the plumbing function or whatever. So that's good news, Ken.
Yep.
I'm thinking, with that QR code, there might be people like who have questions about, especially with this, properties that are owned by absentee landlords. There may be questions they have before they're ready to sort of, sign on by going to the QR code. I think should maybe include the QR code, but also like, if you have questions, I don't know, contact you directly, Rich.
They can, but typically the way we've tried to streamline this is that not that I don't want to be
Oh, you're
involved,
not the,
but I'm not the
not the point
primary,
person.
I'm not the primary contact, and typically True
Right.
Northampton is, and then Christina is the person that would actually go and meet with them. And then if there are questions,
Mm-hmm.
then typically Christina reaches out to me. And it's very helpful for me, to be truthful with you, because it takes a little bit off my plate.
Right. Okay.
And but I do see your point. I mean,
But that's an average thing that happens anyway. No one is
Yeah.
like, yeah, give me a tree. You know,
Mhm.
yeah,
like every single one comes. There must be
Yeah.
some place that there can be comments in the because I get, Christine and I talk all the time, and because sometimes it's really not a setback. They're just saying, hey, I want a tree in front of my house, and then it gets bumped back to me. So, you know, there's always a discussion, or, they can, I'm interested in this. Can somebody call me? And that's what gets in the sheet. I don't interface with that part of it, but we have all these notes of, the first contacts and
Yeah. All right. I think
yeah,
that's good
yeah,
enough.
yeah. It's not, there's no like, we're not going to show up with a tree before there's like several interactions with a setback for sure. It's yeah. And
I have
I'm
a
pretty
question now.
sure it's set up that way. I just don't do that part of it. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I know there's so many notes. It's, the initial
Yeah.
contacts
Yeah. A lot of details to iron out.
Yeah.
Where did that 20 feet come from in the first place?
Mass General Law, Chapter 87.
Oh, they have a definition of a setback tree?
Yeah,
Oh, so this is a statewide thing that any city
correct.
can do?
Yes,
It's not just a Northampton thing.
correct.
Oh, okay.
So it empowers the either elected or appointed tree warden of that community to enter into an agreement with a property owner to plant a tree 20 feet within 20 feet of the public right of way, either using public funds or private funds,
Oh,
and shall be protected as in accordance with Section 1, which says that it is a public shade tree.
mm-hmm.
So the city solicitor's interpretation of that is that the tree that is planted in the 20-foot right of way, outside of the right of way within the 20-foot that
Mm-hmm.
it mentions is a public shade tree.
Yeah.
So the only way to codify that is to have the agreement and then actually file it at the registry of deeds.
Mm-hmm.
Most communities, like I've said in the past, have the agreement letter, but it says within 2 years, 3 years, next year, you own the tree. We don't want anything to do with it, basically.
Oh, really? Oh,
But
huh.
we're
And
actually,
it doesn't get on their deed. Yeah.
it does not get
Oh.
on the deed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not protected.
Yeah.
Huh, forget that.
Yeah, I mean, it is a double-edged sword though, because the more setback trees that we take care of, the more, it's capacity. I mean, that's, plus
Right.
we planted like 20% of our inventoried canopy since 2015. So, but we're able to manage the capacity of the care of those trees because we have such great help from Tree Northampton and the volunteers.
Yeah.
So that would not be, this would not be possible without all of their effort and your effort.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. So should I make a point of mentioning them in the letter? Because the landowners aren't gonna know anything about Tree Northampton.
I mean, again, like you can, but again, if you're sending them to if you're sending them to the brochure,
Oh,
that all that's the whole process is spelled out in the brochure.
yeah.
It's almost like the letter should basically talk about the setback. Here's the setback planting initiative that we have. This is what the setback planting initiative is.
Mm-hmm.
This is a great program. These are the benefits of this tree that will be planted. Property value and, included in all of that. We'd love to engage you, to get this tree planted or please, any questions, here is a link to the brochure,
Okay.
something
All
like
right.
that. I mean, that's just like me just rattling off, like
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think you want to recreate everything that's on the brochure and put it in
Right.
the letter. I think it would be helpful to say who we are,
Mm-hmm.
the initiative that we have, what the setback means, and then what the benefits of trees are, and here's the link, we'd like to help you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if they click on that link, it takes them to the brochure. And then they get some more new information. And then do they
Yes.
have to click on another QR code, that's in the brochure to get,
They can either do the QR code or they can do the Google link, either one.
oh, okay.
Both hyperlinks, they're both live.
All right. Well, I'll draft the whole letter and you could maybe put those links in it
Okay,
when we get to the final version.
okay.
And Rich, you mentioned capacity.
Yes, sir.
And we talked about this before, but I would just emphasize how important it is to talk about the responsibility to water. Up for, like 10 gallons a week during hot spells, 20 gallons a week, just so you weed out people who might not be willing to step forward and do that, because it is, it's onerous.
It is onerous and some people are not going to do it, but I mean, yeah, I don't disagree with you. And I think that conversation piece happens when part of the conversation happens when, Christina is there talking with the potential applicant. And we like to have a commitment of watering, but you can't necessarily, people may commit to watering. In my experience is people commit to watering and it's great. And some people are rock solid, but then, people go on vacation, they go away, it gets hot. And if I'm counting on them to water the tree and I don't hear from them, then we don't add that to the watering list. And again, we've been blessed the last really 2 years. We haven't had to do a lot of watering. The most watering we did this year was in the, at planting time. And then basically at the end of August and September and early October when we were planting. So, but yeah, I agree, David. I think it's nice to have a commitment and we should talk about it in some way that is meaningful.
Is the updated brochure in our Google folder, the shared folder?
Probably not, because I will dig it out and I will email it to all of you.
Okay, that'd be great.
I received a copy of it not too long ago from Marcus Printing, who did the printing work. Kent.
Yeah, maybe I missed it, but why not include the brochure with the letter?
Good point.
Yes.
have a lot of them, right? Didn't you print up like 1,000 door hangers?
We have a couple thousand. I think if we were to ever get people's emails, we would just send them the letter, an emailed letter with we could do that too, but yes, yep,
Oh, I thought this was a US mail letter, a real letter
it is.
to the
It
owner's
is.
address.
It is, but if we have another way of doing this too, is if we were able to actually access the different, some wards have listservs. Like, for example, Councilor Jarrett has a listserv
Hmm.
for his ward, and that would be a great place where you could actually put the links to a letter and the brochure. So
But for this letter is going to people with identified sites.
that's correct. That are not owner occupied. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think it makes sense to put the brochure in there. It's one less thing that they have to, one less step to do.
Correct. It'll be right there and it'll explain the whole program.
Yeah.
Enclosed is the brochure that will
Yeah.
explain the setback initiative
Yeah. All right. So I'll put this up on Google. I'll add those two little sentences about property value and I'll put it up on the Google thing under suggestions and
Okay.
give you all contact connection to it.
Okay. Any other questions about the setback letter or the initiative? Okay, I had, Abby, was very gracious and took the time to enter the data of all the trees we planted this year. So my number comes up at 133 trees planted,
Hmm.
which is a nice steady pace. And if, we did just trying to find the master. The master is telling us that we've planted 2,212 trees.
Oh, okay, great. Since when?
2015.
Hmm.
And I think that Jen, I owe you, I'm sorry, you sent me a request to sort of talk about. I am not ignoring it. I just trying to find the time to do it. I'll text you tomorrow or later.
Yeah, we can work it out. I figured you just got busy and I know,
Yeah.
you got a lot going on. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to like be able to get ahead of the curve a little bit, so we could actually start building a nursery list and that I had some sites, in our pockets that we can start, thinking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that way there we can actually follow up on some of the things that we sort of didn't, like, for example, Ice Pond Drive. Not Ice Pond, excuse me, Ridgeview. We also need to add to that list, which is on there somewhere. We need to plant a few trees on Armory Street. We didn't plant.
Yeah, that's kind of on my list to talk to. I'll have to update
Okay.
my list, but yeah, because those pits will have to be revamped or something. You know what I mean? Like amended or whatever.
Probably amended, but there's the stumps are part of the stumps are still in there, so we can't amend them too much. I don't know. We'll talk when we talk about
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole.
Yep. Yep.
So that way there we can actually put an order together for the spring, whether it's bare root for a project. Has anyone heard from the Rotary Club at all? About,
Sorry, I was already unmuted. I mean, we usually contact them after Sue usually does that part, and she usually
Okay.
contacts them after we have a project and we nail down a date, and we can do that early. David and I and Jordan and Sue and Bob Paxby came along too to walk through JFK, and that was another big thing I want to talk to you about. Just
Okay.
There's a lot of, there's just some questions I have about, the bigger picture there, and, there's
Okay.
a lot, we could definitely possibly do bare roots at JFK. And there's a lot of potential planting sites if we do them, so.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm just gonna, want to leave that on the agenda for our next meeting as well, just as a placeholder?
Sure.
Okay. All right,
And we'll just be in touch outside of this meeting.
yes, yep.
Mhm.
Okay, without any other business not anticipated by the chair?
Yes,
Rich Parrish.
yes, I should report that in November, Free Northampton held a training seminar for volunteers in young tree pruning. And since then, the volunteers have been out working on young trees, and that will continue throughout the winter. And this is one, of course, one of the volunteers is arborist Jay Gerard. And so we will be busy throughout the winter, and I think hopefully making a difference to the young trees, getting them off to a good start.
Rich, how many pruners do you have going?
Oh, there is about 10 active volunteers, with differing levels of experience, but there's probably a half dozen of, experienced folks in there, and lots of, say, people being mentored in the work.
Rich, just a question about last year's pruning. Are you the keeper of the records for the amount of hours that the volunteers worked for pruning, or did you give all that information to Sue?
I have all of that information, so want me to forward that?
Yeah, that would be helpful because in the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be working on our Tree City USA application, and that I need that portion of it. And then I'll reach out to Sue for the volunteer hours for the tree planting,
Right.
and all the other aspects of the volunteer program.
Okay, will do.
All right, thank you very much. And I also want to comment that I actually went to the training and I enjoyed Rich's presentation. He did a great job, really nice job. So it was kind of nice to sit in the back of the classroom and be a student again. I appreciate that very much. So, any other questions, comments? Anything else that folks want to talk about while we have 1 minute? All right. I just want to say thank you. We're closing out another year of collaboration with the city, with Tree Northampton, with other volunteer organizations. We've done a lot of advocacy, a lot of outreach to the schools. Thank you, David, and company for that. Kent, I want to say thank you for all of your help. Even though you are not an official commission member, you're really towing the line. So thank you. You've been a great help. Jen, you've really stepped up to help me tremendously to actually just pick up the things that Rob and I did together. And it's allowed me to sort of focus on the other parts of the tree, the large tree removals, pruning, storm damage, all those things that don't necessarily fall within the purview of the commission. I appreciate everything. Rich Parrish, can't say enough about all of your dedication and hard work and your volunteer effort on boots on the ground, and actually just sort of keeping at it and being steady. It's great. It's appreciated. And Molly, you are you do a wonderful job. You come through. You do all the things that, in essence, writing letters that a lot of us may not want to do. You're very thoughtful. You're also very persuasive. So
Oh, wow.
it's greatly appreciated by myself and other commissioners. Sue is not here. But Sue is sort of the backbone of multiple different fronts that we're on. And Sue is a great communicator, very skilled, and it shows because we have a consistent volunteer effort. And people really feel like when they come to do something for the city through the volunteer work of Tree Northampton, they're actually walk away very satisfied. And I thank Sue for really continuing that presence and continue that mission with Tree Northampton. And if Jordan, you're not here, unfortunately, also, but Jordan, thank you for your several years of service. It's always great for me to have another arborist on the commission because that's helpful to bounce things off of. And your skill set and friendly face will be missed. So, but you know, as time marches on, people have other obligations and it's totally understandable. But I just wanted to say thank you for a great year. I truly appreciate all your efforts. And Jackie, thank you for coming to all of our meetings, Jackie. It's greatly appreciated. You're sort of like overwatching all of these great things that's going on in different parts of the city, and it's greatly appreciated. And we hope that you continue. So thank
I love you. I love you.
Oh, that's pretty strong word. Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
Each and every one.
Yeah.
And Rich, if you could pass on to your crew, you know, I particularly Brooke and Abby, just the appreciation that we have to get, you know, they're the ones that get the trees, you know, out to the street and pick up all the buckets and all that, you know, fill the buckets, all that stuff. And it's really not lost on any of us that, you know, that's a pile of work. And, you know, they do a good job. So I just really want to
Thank you. I'll
communicate from us to
I will-
thank
I will
you also for your, you know,
Yeah.
if we didn't have the DPW coordination, you know, this would not be happening, you know.
Yeah, again, thank you. I will pass it along. And again, it's really all about partnerships, right? This is sort of a public-private,
Right.
public-private partnership, really, right? The city, the commission, and then Tree Northampton and all the
Right.
volunteers and all the other organizations that we've touched. I just, sometimes I don't think about, you have to sit back and think about it a little bit. And it's sort of, you know, we're a pretty special group and we're very lucky that we all have sort of found each other and sort of we work really well on the commission and it's greatly appreciated by me. So I just wanted to tell you all of that.
Well, I would say we really appreciate you and your
Mhm.
passion for trees and how much you care about them and your knowledge, and you're just like keeping us on track and moving things forward and try to keep everything organized and keeping track of all those little details that you have to, all the little tiny details you have to deal with.
There are a lot of those and I try, believe me, I try, but the older I get, sometimes it's like, is my memory going somewhere? No, I'm fine, but I'm just, but there are a lot of details, but there's also, it's a nice symbiotic relationship,
Mhm.
if I'm missing something, someone says, hey, you've got this, and same with me and with someone else. So it's been great. We look forward to another year, 2025, more tree plantings, more tree pruning, and just doing the great work that's required to take care of our canopy.
Yeah.
So thank
All
you.
right.
All
Here,
right, now,
here.
I'm here.
Yeah.
To
I'm not
Happy
gonna-
holidays
2025.
and
Yeah,
Happy New
right.
Year to everybody.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say anymore. We need a motion to adjourn the meeting. And
So moved.
all right.
Second,
All right. Thank you very much. We have a motion to adjourn the meeting with a second. All in favor, raise their hand, please. Thank you very much. Everyone have a nice holiday season. And we will be in touch and we'll see everyone after the new year.
okay.
Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Take care, everybody.
Nice holidays,
Thanks, Rich.
everybody.
See you, everybody.
Yep.